The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Tuesday, the 20th day of July, 2021. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical Housing Communications and Linda's. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Michaela Ian, and Leanna Lambert will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break. Michaela, it's Tuesday, second day of the traditional work week. How are you doing, my sister?
I'm trying to be good.
Trying to be, well, hey,
I'm trying to be good. Yeah, need copious amounts of coffee today, but I'll be all right.
We all have those days, Michaela. It's all good. It's all good. But look, we hope that this part of the day, being it's one of the first parts of most people's days, helps it get better for you and others who may be feeling the same way. So good morning to everyone. A good one today as Susan Richardson and Sandy De Silva stop by to discuss an important campaign. And I say an important campaign. So folks, you know somebody that knows somebody, and that person knows somebody else. Tell them to tune in, share the link, press play, whatever. Just get into the conversation. We appreciate important conversations and important people like this who bring these conversations to our platform. The Daily Play, brought to you by Heineken 0.0, is a remember when. So Michaela is guessing, should we do the year or decade? Because she makes it so easy. Anyway, we'll figure it out. but let's just say, hint, the Olympics begin this Friday. I think the opening ceremony is. So yeah. That's the hint right there. So look, a lot to get to, a lot to discuss, and important conversations going on within our community. And our colleague Jackie from Good Day Bermuda. Speaking of Good Day Bermuda, did you know there was some tiger sharks found in St. David's yesterday?
Really?
Yeah, I had to watch Good Day Bermuda this morning to find that out. I'm just going to say I appreciate Choya Ming and Dr. Neil Burney, the late Dr. Neil Burney, and Rowden, and all these people who like the ocean. I appreciate them. But I'm going to stay on land and let you share the picture and video with me. I'm not about to. Nah, I'm going to leave that to you.
Listen, I have said repeatedly, I'm going to stay in the boat. I'm going to stay on top of the floaty. That's going to be that.
Yeah. So, look. So somebody has to tell the story from land, right? Like even if you go down in one of the shark cages, someone has to tell the story from land. I think I'm best suited for that role. They say sometimes life's about knowing your role. I know my role is on land, right? Now, if you want to bring me something to eat from the seat, then we can have that conversation. But no, interesting conversation on Good Day Bermuda, folks. If you haven't checked it out, some tiger sharks off St. David's yesterday, and Rowden Wade. Brilliant guy, ocean conservationist, he was on the show with them. So interesting conversation. Again, I'll stay on sidewalks over the ocean. But conversation yesterday by our colleague Jackie. She posted something on Twitter, which really brought about an important conversation, not discussed enough. We dedicated a whole week last year to mental health. We had various professionals on, but the post, and I'm just going to quote what was posted on Twitter, quote, "Let's talk about mental health real quick during the 14-day mandatory quarantine in Bermuda. Yesterday was a bad day for me. Yesterday morning, I called hotel security and hysterically upset as I have not slept since I started my quarantine on July 10th. It's heartbreaking, really. He immediately, speaking of the security, he immediately gave me the contact for the mental health government contact. Once on the phone with mental health support, I let it be known very strongly that I have been having a mental breakdown and that I would like to apply for an exemption to complete my quarantine at home, which is 6 more days in brackets. In response to having a mental breakdown, the mental health support said that he had spoke with his government contact and that I should take this is crazy. I should take warm showers before bed, drink tea, and take a melatonin supplement, that I will not be given an exemption, and to contact my GP the next day. It is now 24 hours later, and a qualified mental health professional has yet to call or check up on me in person. Just thought I would share to bring awareness. And for those unvaccinated travelers who will have to go through this, please mentally prepare yourself, because you do not get the support that you see the government speak about on TV. BTW, which is, by the way, we are only tested on arrival at the airport, and day 13, we are not tested on day 4 or day 8, which is strange if we are such a risk. And this was shared on Twitter. And Michaela, the premier responded, you said.
Yes. So the premier replied, and his response, hold on, here we go. He says, "Good day. This matter has been brought to my attention. The well-being of Bermudians, both mentally and physically, is something that the government takes very seriously, and it is being looked into as a matter of urgency." Hopefully something comes out of it.
Well, I did see an updated post, and I believe Jackie might have shared an updated post. Let's just see.
Okay.
I believe, Jackie, you tweet too much. All right. Jackie tweeted about 10 hours ago. She's home, guys. Thank you for your support, for all of your support. And the actual quote says, "Update, I've been given permission to complete my quarantine at home. If you know me, you know that I am extremely private person. So to share my previous post took a lot. Thank you to everyone who reached out and offered support." So I guess what really is puzzling and troubling to many people is, why did this extremely private person have to make a public plea to get the assistance that she needed? You know?
Yeah, that's the thing about it. I mean, I think it's very concerning that a mental health professional, I would imagine that in order to be a mental health professional, you've had to go through rigorous training and so forth. I would like to think. It's very concerning that this person is telling someone who's admitting that they're having an episode, a mental breakdown of some sort. I'm not qualified to diagnose this, so I'm not going to try to say, what it was. But it's very alarming that this qualified mental health professional would suggest to someone who's admitting that they're having a mental health issue to take a warm shower and drink some tea.
Yeah.
What?
It's troubling, and it's troubling. And Michaela, I guess the question of all this that we can put to the audience today is mental health taken seriously enough in Bermuda? And I think this is an appropriate question for this reason. Not only is it taken seriously enough, but, and this is a question someone put on social media, if there's a hotline, are the people on these hotlines actually qualified people, or are they just customer service reps?
Yeah, so I'm going to say this. The easy answer that unfortunately a lot of people will think when reading that post is, oh, she should have got vaccinated. Okay. And I've seen this posted. All right. So you can be fully for people being vaccinated and immunized, and you can also be sympathetic to someone else's plight who's made a decision not to get vaccinated.
Indeed.
Her decision not to get vaccinated has nothing to do with how she was treated.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? Like, that to me is crazy, that you can be so callous as to not appreciate or sympathize what someone is going through because they've made a choice that works best for them. That's not okay to me. But I will say mental health is not taken seriously in Bermuda. Mental health is rampant in Bermuda. We know this, right? There are people who are walking around every day with mental health issues who go untreated, whether it's because of the stigma, I don't know, or is it because people just don't take things seriously, or is it a case of you don't want to go to Maui and be labeled crazy,
Right. Yeah.
you know? Um, and I just think that in 2021, something has to give. Like I saw something recently. Oh gosh, Shoshana Williams. I can't remember her husband's name, but they have like a mental health. I think it's like a company for men.
Yeah.
Right, because I feel like women generally, like if a woman is having an issue and going into some sort of crisis, I feel like as a woman is more likely to be like, I need to go see a therapist, or I need to go see someone, I need to talk to someone. Whereas a man, because society has conditioned men to not be weak, not cry, not be sensitive, a man will just like suck it up and deal with it. And then it'll get to the point of super crisis, and then you got to be admitted, you know? So I think as a community, we definitely don't take mental health seriously. And it's an absolute shame that this person had to make a public plea for something that should be wildly private.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, it's not only should it be something that's private, but this is a person that, you know, I don't know the young lady, but she's even saying I'm a private person, but she's using her situation as an eye opener for others, and an example as, no, this is not okay. And you know, we're talking to some experts a bit later about sexual abuse with children, and it's the same thing. You know, it's things like you just never know, because it's an area where people don't speak up about it, right? They're not comfortable speaking up about it, and so these are things that are happening in a small community like Bermuda, that we have to do better with. And I think what concerns me about the premier is, you know, are you telling me that, you know, right or wrong, that your governing has become so reactionary? Like if this wouldn't have made it to Twitter, like nothing would have happened? Like this is concerning, and it should concern everyone. You know, this is not an attack on the premier at all, because at the end of the day, there are people in place that have jobs that work. You know, he's not a mental health expert, right? But again, you know, he can't be, him and his colleagues can't be speaking publicly during press conferences, and then the people who work for them or under them or with them not following through and ensuring that Bermudians are safe, that Bermudians feel safe, that Bermudians are okay. This is a very sad situation. And, you know, I don't think people take it seriously enough. I honestly don't think that, you know, because you think about it, you know, I remember, I have to bring this up, conscription, you know, it was said, oh, if you don't go up, you're not a man. Like to take abuse is nothing, you know, about abuse that makes being a man. When are we going to realize that abuse does not equate adulthood, let alone manhood? You know, so I think we have had a society, you know, as a society, I think Bermuda has failed for years and decades in dealing with abuse, because we've made it seem like abuse is a part of making us better people. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's just, we don't even know how many other people have had similar situations, but haven't made it public. You know what I mean? And then to go back to your point about abuse, I watched this video last night. There's this guy who is like known as the toughest man in the world, this Black guy who was in the army and a Navy SEAL, blah, blah, blah. And he's talking about the army as in it makes you a man. It's built to break you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, built to break you? Like, how is this okay? How is this something that, you know, young men should be like, yes, I'm going to go do this so I can get broken? Come on.
But but that's the shift that needs to happen as a community. What we once thought was tough, it's not. It was toxic. Let's just be honest. Let's call it. We have lived in an extremely toxic society and community that's been acceptable for too long. And this has to be the end. Because I guarantee you there are people under their breath saying, oh, this young lady is weak and this and that, or she's just complete. Trust me, there are people doing that, because again, the mindset, the conditioning as a community, as a people, that's been forever. Let's go to the comments, Kales. We have a lot. Monica Dunstan, she says that the lack of concern is not surprising given the disconnect. Shayna Smith says, "What a joke! I'm shaking my head." Shayna Smith kills.
As someone that works in the social services field, it saddens me that government is completely out of touch with the poor quality of mental health services on this island.
Mm, mm. Shanna also says this is an area that needs addressing immediately. She goes on to say, um, part of the issue is the long wait time for free mental health services. Many can't afford to pay for private services. Interesting. I mean, the things we need most should not be,
Exactly. And I mean, absolutely. And I mean, if you want to get a therapist, therapy is expensive in Bermuda. Like, I go to therapy regularly. I don't hide that. I talk about it a lot because it's important for me and my mental health that I am like, in a good space. But it's expensive.
It is.
So, if you don't work somewhere where they have EAP and you can get therapy for free, it's definitely a cost. And it really, I mean, obviously the therapist needs to be paid, but there should be something in government where, that sort of thing is taken care of.
Yeah, I agree. Sherry Vanderpeel kills.
There are a lack of resources on top of lack of trust. As being in the field myself, Bermudians are afraid of their businesses being out there. Therefore, no one wants to get treated. Yeah.
Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, "I've been going to church my whole life, and even in church circles, some would tell you to read your Bible and prayer. I believe in Jesus and therapy."
Yeah, that comment by Mark, I think sums up what a lot of people in Bermuda believe. Oh, just pray about it. Jesus will help you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but to those who do pray, I appreciate that, but it's like almost substances. Different substances impact people in different ways. It's not a one size fits all, right? So what may work for Michaela may not work for me.
Exactly.
We have to keep that in mind. Samcat Plays says, if this is all about health, meaning the quarantine, then why isn't mental health just as important? It is quite obvious that this is about money and truly not health. Those people on the line are just reps employed to respond based on plausible scenarios. Government does not have the money to pay for qualified doctors on those lines. Just hearing about this is affecting my mental health. And that's what, I can't disagree with Sam Cat Place. I think that's what I was thinking. Like, are these actual mental health professionals, or are they just, people, customer service reps?
Well, to be fair, the people who answer the phone anywhere in the world when someone is in crisis is not a doctor, right?
Yeah.
But you are supposed to be a trained person. Like, the person who answers 911 is trained to help someone get through whatever the scenario is. And that's exactly what the people should be trained here for. I don't know what the level of training is, obviously, but it seems that, get a warm shower and have some tea. That's not the answer. That's
Indeed.
terrible.
Carla John says, a lot of violence we accept today is a legacy of slavery. Well, spanking children. Truth be told. Shaid says, Bermudians are quick to stigmatize everything until it happens to them. Dr. Kendra Lee Pierman says, mental health is unseen and ignored. Malcolm Rana Michaela.
Mental health is not usually treated seriously in countries from the West and in those that have an unbalanced society. This becomes clear when you live temporarily in a country like the Netherlands.
Yeah. Renee Sherlin Simmons says they treated the issue as if she had a headache. Take a warm shower and tea. This person is in crisis, and it was her friend that was trying to get her help after she called herself security, and security told her to reach out to government. If they're going to lock down people like that, they need a nurse there 24/7 because no one knows a person's strengths or weaknesses. Not everyone can be locked up like that. This could have been a serious situation. Michelle Smith, Michaela.
In some of the jurisdictions, they have nurses on site to tend to people. There should be someone making rounds to ensure all are safe physically and mentally. Absolutely.
Let's round it out with Monica Dunstan. She says, would the government have taken responsibility for the advice given if the lady had hurt herself? I highly doubt it. I just want to say this as we wrap this conversation up and bring Leanna into the conversation as well. I saw a post the other day on Facebook. This post was actually very interesting, and it was of a handgun. And the caption with the handgun said, it was basically two people who are frustrated and mad and want to go and shoot somebody. And it said, before you pick this up, go into your bathroom, sit down for about 20 minutes, and just consider that if you pick that gun up, you'll be sitting in this bathroom for the rest of your life.
Woo! Lord.
That right there is, to bring it home and tie it to today's conversation is why we need conversations, individual conversations when it comes to mental health. I think the suggestion by, I think it was Renee just now, about 24/7 nursing care was very important, because you need, I look at events, certain event back in the day at Coney Island, used to be scrambling in Bermuda, motocross, whatever you want to call it. The races couldn't take place, at least during my days down there, unless an ambulance was on scene. So if someone got injured, they had to go to the hospital. They couldn't continue until an ambulance was there. I think it's imperative that if you're going to put these stipulations in place, you look at all angles that you're considering. Good morning, Lee. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, guys. How's everyone this morning?
We are okay. Very, very
All right.
serious conversation.
Yeah,
Obviously, something that we hope we shouldn't have to be discussing regularly, but something that we hope will be an eye opener for not just those in charge, but Bermudians as a whole, to take things like mental health a bit more seriously.
agreed. Agreed.
Let's get over to your news break. You ready for us?
I am.
He is ready. Here we go. Lee with the big smile, and let's see what she's got in her news for us today. Hopefully some good weather down there for you, Bermuda.
Thanks, Jamal and Michaela, and good morning to everyone that's tuned in with us today. I hope everyone's having a great start to their day despite the rainy weather we are experiencing. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break. So here's what's going on in today's top stories. An apparent viral outbreak of a fast-moving and highly contagious disease that kills dogs has been flagged up by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Now, canine parvovirus, a gastrointestinal virus that can be fatal within a few days, has been spotted by 3 veterinarian practices, which seemingly unrelated cases. Now, the virus will usually be seen sporadically, but the department is aware of at least 3 clusters affecting 15 young puppies, 2 adolescent dogs, which they say has caused concern. Now, after clinical signs and lab test results, vets were able to determine the causes, which include a loss of appetite, followed by vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration, and listlessness. They suggest keeping surfaces clean with bleach or disinfectants specific to the disease, and owners are advised to use coveralls and disposable gloves to help avert infection. Humans are not susceptible to the virus, however, which is generally specific to dogs, but poor hygiene can and will lead to spreading the virus and exposing additional dogs. In other news, police yesterday renewed their appeal for any witnesses to the murder of Jakari Francis, who was killed 4 years ago, and asked for them to come forward. Mr. Francis was fatally shot while inside a residence on Upland Street in Devonshire just before 11 p.m. on July 19th in 2017. Now, according to lead investigator, acting detective inspector Jason Smith, police have interviewed several persons and that they say cooperation is much appreciated. However, there are apparently still several people who witnessed suspicious activity in the area that evening, and he's asked that those persons are critical to bringing closure to this investigation. Now, anyone with information is asked to call Inspector Smith on 717-0864, email jsmith2@bps.bm, or call the Confidential and Crime Stoppers hotline on 800-8477. The coronavirus pandemic sparked an increase in calls from workers concerned about their rights, including mandatory COVID testing, a new report has shown. Now, according to the Human Rights Commission's 2020 annual report tabled in the House of Assembly on Friday, 20 complaints related to COVID-19 had been filed, with 13 of those being related to employment. Complaints included alleged unfair practices by employers, such as the initiation of mandatory COVID-19 testing, disputes over whether employees were entitled to wages during the lockdown period, and unfair terminations. Now, other complaints are said to have been from those who were not allowed in the hospital to witness the birth of their child due to restrictions and being unable to attend partners' ultrasound appointments. The HRC also received one complaint related to a tenant who was asked to leave a rental property during the pandemic. Now, HRC Executive Officer Lisa Reed said that almost 15% of queries and complaints received in 2020 were directly related to the pandemic, and that the total number of those complaints had risen by 9%, and that it was expected to continue as the economic and social issues remain. And Bermuda's Tiara DeRosa, who represents Mississippi Valley State University, has been selected as a nominee for the prestigious 2021 NCAA Woman of the Year Award. Now, the program is known for honoring academic achievements, athletics excellence, community service, and leadership of outstanding women college athletes. So far, they've received 535 nominations. A select committee will choose from the 9 finalists, with the award ceremony due to take place on October 17th in Indianapolis. For today's weather, we have a high near 85 and a low near 77 degrees. We will see a mix of sun and clouds with a chance of a shower or two after midday. Clouds thicken and southwest winds strengthen on Wednesday as a frontal boundary slowly approaches from the northwest. Now, showers are expected to develop by Thursday, with longer wet spells possible on Friday. That's all for our Daily Hour news break. Let's head back to Jamal and Michaela in the studio for today's Daily Focus.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Lee. Appreciate that. You had to just bring rain on Bermudians Parade if that rain.
I apologize, but after that stifling heat over the weekend, I think we could use a little cool down.
No. I have a party on Friday during the day. Come on, give me some sun.
Well, we'll be out there doing our rain dances for you, Kales.
All right, Lee, thank you so much for that. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Bye, guys.
Bye, Lee.
Leanna Lambert, there is you folks. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our guests for the day, Sandy De Silva and Susan Richardson, Family Center folks. You don't want to miss this. Very important conversation. Stick with us.
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dendytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
All righty, welcome back to the big show. She's Michaela and I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Lindo's, and our friends over at Channel 82, where you can stream this and many other locally produced shows. Without further ado, let's bring in our guests for the day, the Family Center, Susan Richardson and Sandy De Silva. Welcome to the show to the both of you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us. Much appreciated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So look, thank you for trusting our platform and coming on to have this conversation. We've had Debbie Ray Rivers from SCARS on the show. We've had Kelly Hunt from the Coalition for the Protection of Children on this show. Tell us a bit about the Family Center and how it differs from those two organizations from the start.
Sure. What I can say is that the Family Center, there are three sort of elements of support that we provide. Similar to Coalition and SCARS, we also do preventative work. We also do advocacy. And one of the hallmarks of the Family Center is our mental health services. And so, I'm the Director of Counseling Services, and a large part of what we do is to be able to support children that are suffering from social, emotional, and behavioral, as well as trauma-related issues. And so that's one of the things that makes us significant different is the mental health services that we provide in terms of providing counseling services to family in conjunction with the other sort of pillar of services we provide.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You want to add anything to that, Sandy?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, just to give a shout out to our two other partners in this particular campaign that we're going to talk about today. So, for SCARS, they really do focus on teaching adults about prevention. And the way that they do that is on educating about sort of signs of sexual abuse and how to prevent it in our children, growing up. So they're a huge advocate in the community as a voice of children to prevent sexual abuse. And then for the Coalition, again, they're a huge advocate on behalf of families, and they provide services. They provide a variety of services for families, particularly to address critical but unmet needs. So just to add a little bit of detail about our other two partners in this campaign.
Indeed. And speaking of the campaign, that's what we're here to discuss. What is the Protect Their Childhood, Protect Their Future campaign, and how did it come about?
Sure. We definitely have a lot of gratitude to Hafiz James, who actually was the brainchild of this whole campaign, in that he was great about actually bringing together SCARS, as well as Coalition, and us, the Family Center, together to actually bring forth this campaign. And, he is the creative director of this campaign. If you go on any one of our platforms, you'll see his visuals, the animations that he's designed. And so, it came out of a strong need to ensure that we were making sense of some of the things that we were seeing in our community, in the sense that we knew that there were a lot of things that are happening behaviorally or socially, emotionally to our young people and just adults in general. And one of the things that came out of the campaign was that we knew that there was also a linkage in the sense of, what was happening to people, and the fact that for some people, sexual abuse was one of the things that has been the very sad, situation that has happened to them. And so this campaign is really came out of the fact that we three agencies, pulled together by Hafiz, we realized that it was time and it was so important for us to stand up and to acknowledge the fact that we as adults in this community, we have a very important responsibility to our children and to our community to speak up for them and to ensure that we acknowledge to the community that it's so important for us to, recognize that it is us. It's our responsibility to do the protection. There's some things that we can certainly support children about, but it's important that from a sexual abuse perspective, we do everything that we possibly can to prevent sexual abuse.
Indeed. And Sandy, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the topic of sexual abuse reminds me about what yourself, Jamal, and Michaela were talking about earlier in terms of mental health. There are so many factors that happen to us that can result in challenges with our mental health, and that can show up in our behaviors, our thoughts, our feelings, in our relationships, in our workspace. And of all the different types of challenges that can affect us, sexual abuse is probably one of the ones that people hold the most kept sort of, quiet and close to their hearts, because talk about the stigma attached to that. And so an awareness campaign like this is about telling people it is okay to talk about it. And we must, if we're going to actually prevent it in the younger generations, in children. And sexual abuse can occur at any age, no matter what type of relationship that you are in. It has no type of criteria to be able to happen. And we need to detach any stigma to it so that people can get the help that they need and prevent it from happening again.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So can you actually tell us what is considered sexual abuse?
Sure. I could actually speak to that. What I'll say to you that sexual abuse can occur between definitely an adult engaging a child, and sometimes the interactions look like an adult tricking them, trapping them, bribing them, and forcing them. It could be violent or non-violent. It could be connected to touching, or even not touching in terms of pornography or telephone or other means. And so when you look at it, it really is about someone violating and overpowering and using force or power to sexually engage someone.
And who's more likely to be a perpetrator and a victim of sexual abuse?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've heard different, I think probably by this point, many people have heard that it's often a relative. In fact, in most often, sexual abusers know the child, but they're not necessarily relatives. So in about 60% of cases, the perpetrators are like non-relative known people to that child. It could be a neighbor. It could have been someone that, mom or dad trusted to care for the child, etc. And then in 30% of the cases, though, they are relatives to the child. And then 10% of cases are actually by a stranger as well. Now, what we don't have clear data on is what is happening on the big wide world of the internet, with child pornographers and other perpetrators who truly are strangers from wherever in the world, seeking out children to be able to, exert power and control through these sort of means.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Susan, did you have anything to add to that?
When you were asking about in terms of the question, one of the things that was standing out to me is that one of the things to note about the sort of the offenders, these are certainly individuals that have significant psychological, concerns, and they also need intervention. And these are individuals that, are more knowledgeable, more powerful, and typically more older than the child. And they are, they typically desire to be around children and feel more comfortable being around children than they do with adults. And with their relationship with their same age peers, the offenders have a hard time relating and connecting, and so they find children a more easier connection. And that's what makes it such a challenging thing, is that they're among us, and the way that they show up is one that sometimes if you're not keen on understanding that there's something happening, and that's why the protection of children is so important, because they have interest in children.
Sorry.
I don't like this conversation. I'll just be honest.
I hear you.
I have two boys, and I've covered many of these sort of cases in court, and it's just always.
I hope we get to a point, I honestly do hope we get to a point where we don't have to have these conversations. I say about police officers, I hope we get to a point where there's not a necessity for police officers and so on. So I agree with you, Michaela. It's these uncomfortable conversations that we should not be having, but we have to have because these exist, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So how can one best protect themselves and children from sexual abuse?
Yeah, and I think it's, it goes back to what we're talking about right now, which is how do we have the conversations at the outset around keeping ourselves safe, keeping our children safe. And so, I think probably many of us have heard about how to have that good touch, bad touch conversation with our little ones. The body parts that like a bathing suit typically covers, you want to protect those. Nobody else should be touching those, and you have a right to say stop, no, and go and tell somebody safe about it. And in fact, even telling children in these cases, you can challenge authority. It doesn't matter who the person is, whether they are a teacher, a person in your area of faith that is an authority figure, whether it's mom, dad, neighbor, uncle, aunt, whoever it is, to know what is bad touch and to know what to do about it. I think one of the common issues that we find is that we stop having those conversations as our children get older. They sort of stop at that toddler age. But in fact, you just have to keep changing the language a bit around about the conversation as our children get older, so that they are reminded that this is their body and they have every right to protect it from unsafe behaviors from other people. So I think it's constantly having the conversation around keeping yourself safe, and also ensuring that, offenders out there actually go and get the help that they need prior to ever, doing something of this nature, sexually abusing anybody else. So keep having the conversation. And for parents, if it ever does happen, that you actually tell your child, I believe you. I'm here to listen to you, and we are going to do something about this. And I'm still going to love you. This does not make you a bad person or a dirty person or unwanted. My job as an adult and your caregiver is to love you, is to teach you, is to protect you. And I'm going to continue to do all of that and get the help that we need.
Absolutely. I think that last part that you talked about was so key. Just in this, again, I've covered so much of this in the courts, and it's just, I thought no one would believe me. That's what's said so often. Or I thought I would get in trouble, because that's what they're told, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's even powerful, like when a child says something, and if in your gut feeling, like they didn't even maybe complete the sentence, but if your gut feeling is, what was that about? That didn't sound right. Just tell them, I'm always here to listen to you, no matter what it is that you need to talk about. I am here, because that is our job as parents and adults. Mm-hmm. That's our job. We are supposed to keep them safe and love them and teach them.
Absolutely. So what role does the Family Center play in sexual abuse prevention and healing?
So what I'll say to you is that the Family Center, as a mental health service, one of the first things that happens when someone actually comes to our doors and they are indicating that they have a child that has been sexually abused, the first thing that we do is we ensure that the protective agencies and those that needs to be in part of the process surrounding ensuring that the child is protected has been contacted, because one of the things, the first thing we need to do is to ensure that safety is at the priority, because we want to know that they're no longer in contact with the individual that actually has abused them. We want to ensure that, the steps that are needed to be taken has been taken surrounding, even the child understanding that the person is no longer going to be, having access to them, and that it's going to be dealt with, whatever that means. So Department of Child and Family Services, the police department, we need to know that those steps have been taken, because we want to begin the process, the healing process with them, knowing that they feel as though when they go home, that they're not going to be exposed to the sexual abuse any longer. And the role that we play is that, we meet them where they are as a family. And so we provide individual counseling sessions. We do family sessions, and with the individual sessions with the child, we provide play therapy, art therapy, talk therapy. And the reason why I'm saying the gamut of types of therapy is because for some children, they are not ready to talk. they will prefer to draw about what happened, or paint about what happened, or do other things that are connected to it, but not, go deep into it. And so, as therapists, we have to be so sensitive of being able to assess and discern where the child is and what will be the best way of connecting with them. And so, and then the family sessions, it is so important that the parent or the guardians are feeling supported surrounding how to support the child, as well as how to stay grounded in the midst of it, because it's traumatic for all family members. You know what I mean? In terms of, of course, the child, because they're the one that experienced it. And of course, the adult, because we don't know in terms of how they found out and how they're feeling about it. And so, arming the adult with information surrounding, how to take care of themselves, while then, of course, being able to support the child and some of the things that Sandy talked about in terms of saying that not only we believe you, but we're going to protect you. And those are the things that the child needs to hear from the parent surrounding in terms of, I am so sorry what happened. You did not deserve that. You did nothing wrong. These are the words that the parent would have to engage in conversation with the child. And then, the sessions really will lend to having the child and the parent together, and those significant others that are connected to the family for the healing process to begin. And the healing process is a sensitive process in that, for the family, they need assurance that, we're here for them. They have a safe environment, confidential environment. But I heard earlier in the back, in terms of that trust piece, that piece is significant.
Yeah.
People need to know that, what they're disclosing will not go out into the community. And so those are some of the things that we try to create in our space, safety, what I mean? And lend them that we actually care, and that they get to tell their narrative how they want to, and that we listen. That's our number one thing, to listen and to support and to give them the space to heal in a way that works for them.
Absolutely. I just have one quick question. I think this is my last question. Easier now to have these conversations with children? And I ask because my son is 4, and a lot of the programming on YouTube, like he'll be watching something and it will be like, don't touch my body. My body is my body. Don't go put your hand, you know what I mean? And at first, the first time I heard it, I was like, wait a second, I'm sorry. But it's getting drilled in his head in a way that makes sense for him. And I was really like, wow, okay. So then for me, it was just easier to, and he's like, oh, I know, mommy, no one should ever touch me.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Jamel.
Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
I think that's such a great observation, Michaela, because I do think that information about this and conversations are definitely more mainstream now. Children's television shows are certainly integrating hot topics in today's world into their sort of themes of their shows. Children have access to social media, and so more ads are getting put out there. And also, I just have to say that the education system is also integrating so much more of this information into either health and well-being classes, or they are inviting programs in, like the Coalition does have a program where they, have helped to educate children to speak up for themselves on various issues that are affecting them. So I think between agencies pushing programs into the school systems embracing that, television and social media, having these conversations. And then, it would have been unheard of years ago to even have this sort of information out on the radio.
Yes,
so the fact that we are having this discussion in a public space like this is huge, and I think is a testament to the courage of all of us to say this cannot have stigma anymore. It must not, if we're going to move past it, because if we let it continue to have stigma, it will only do what the offenders want it to do, which is hide it in the background. And keep it a secret. And Debbie Ray Rivers is awesome in promoting this sort of, this mantra of, we tell children, don't keep secrets. There can be surprises And surprises are usually very joyful things. Your birthday gift is a surprise, things like that. But if somebody asks you to keep a secret, examine what is that secret actually about. So we cannot keep sexual abuse as a secret thing that happens in the community anymore. So thank you to the two of you for having us on, and to Hafid for even putting this campaign together.
Thank you. We are pretty much out of time, but I definitely want to get through some audience questions in the most concise manner as possible. So I'm going to try to get through some questions. Laverne Tucker's asking, are there any cases of sexual abuse by a sibling?
Yeah, so actually one of the places we've not mentioned yet is the Department of Child and Family Services, which would be the go-to department in Bermuda to be able to report a case of child abuse. And they would have that data. So yes, there is prevalence, but the definition of also abuse is that there needs to be a significant difference between the age range of the younger child and the older person who actually performed the act. And usually that is around a 4-year age gap. So that has to be taken into account as well. So if you've got siblings who are close in age, that would be treated differently than a sexual abuse case of a greater age gap, because then there's more knowledge of power and authority in a relationship with a greater age gap.
All right. Monica Dunstan's asking, how closely do you work with schools?
Yeah, so Susan can also jump in for counseling services. They connect with schools on a continual basis to develop sort of treatment plans that also may integrate activities in the school, and we do school observations. And then in fact, our community outreach programs, our third pillar is Youth Leadership Academy, Beyond Rugby and Beyond Yoga, and they are all in direct partnership with schools.
All righty. Susan, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's fine.
All righty. No problem. One last question. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, do you feel more laws should be put in to law to protect our children?
Yes, in fact, the three of us, SCARS, Coalition, and Family Center, have been in the media quite a bit over the last 2 years, particularly around child grooming laws, and then even the sort of sex offender registry and the laws around that, just so that as a community, we know how to best protect our children. So absolutely, there should be more done, and that could even be a whole other hour conversation in terms of the details in that. But there is much more work to be done.
All right. And before you go, just let people know how they can get in touch with you, learn more about the campaign, support the campaign.
So if you go on SCARS, Coalition for Protection of Children, as well as the Family Centers, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, specifically for the Family Center, but the Facebook as well for SCARS and Coalition, you absolutely see information and updates around this campaign, which we started in June, and you get more information surrounding what's to come.
All righty. Senator Silva, Susan Richardson, Family Center, SCARS, Coalition for Protection of Children, thank you for what you're doing. And please know that, should you need our platform for anything, as they know as well, just reach out. We're happy to have these uncomfortable conversations that lead to a change in our community. And, at the end of the day, the idea is to eliminate these conversations, not because they're uncomfortable, but because we've educated our community to understand that this is not something that should be taking place. So thank you both. Appreciate you trusting our platform. Wishing you both a great day. And hopefully we can have you back again and just speak about the progress of the work that you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamal and Michaela, for having us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a great day.
All righty. Awesome people right there, people dedicating their lives and their careers to, bettering the community in so many different ways, and specifically to protect our children. As a former youth football coach, both in Bermuda and in New Jersey, I don't have children myself. I have nieces, I have nephew, I have godchildren. And I just think that as a child, we are vulnerable individuals. The two most vulnerable are children and the elderly, and they must be protected. at all costs.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've covered so many of these cases, and there's nothing worse than being a child who has gone through something like this and having your parents not believe you. So, gotta listen to your children, man.
Indeed. We're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. Thanks again. If you enjoyed that conversation with Susan Richardson and Sandy De Silva from the Family Center, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Really appreciate the work that they're doing. Show them some love. Go visit tfc.bm, I think it is. Is it tfc.bm for more information about the Family Center. Also, you can visit Scars and the Coalition. Like I said, we've had them all on the show. They are friends of the show. And so if you can support, if you want to be a part of the campaign, just reach out. We'll be right back. We're going to stump Michaela, folks. Daily play coming up, and daily inspiration before we let you go for the day.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
All right, welcome back. She's Michaela and I'm Jamel Hartman. Thanks again to our partners, One Communications, Medicals, Lindo's, our friends over at Channel 82. We appreciate the work that they do in supporting what we do. And thanks again to the Family Center, Susan Richardson, Sandy De Silva for coming on and having this conversation with all of us, our audience, and I'm sure the audience very much appreciated it. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Heineken 0.0. Great taste, no alcohol. Michaela, it's time to guess the year or decade. Which do you want to guess?
I think you should accept both answers, or either answer.
Okay, if you get the decade really fast, but you know how this goes, for folks. If you get it before Michaela, you win a prize. You win a prize. All right, here we go.
Okay.
All right. Guess the year or decade when Tommy Smith and John Carlos stood on the podium at the Olympics with their fist raised, receiving their medals.
1960.
It's not 1960, but you
1970.
Guess the decade right. Wow, somebody got it. Somebody got it. Wow, yeah, Carmen Mitchell-Jones.
I said 1960.
It's 1968.
The decade, the 60s.
I said you got the decade. Not the year, so.
I thought you said try again.
She got the year. 1968 was the year. So, folks, you all think I'm joking. I actually had to order cards because Michaela's too good at this stuff. So I ordered these cards. They're called the Urban Intellectuals Black History flashcards. So I shouldn't have told Michaela.
You can't see it.
Yeah, I shouldn't have told her because now she might order the cards and have all the answers, but she doesn't need to. She's good at this stuff. So 1968 was the year. Carmen Mitchell-Jones will be hooking you up with something. So send us an email, engage@thedailyhour.com, so that we can take care of you. When both of them stood up in protest against racial injustice in the United States and kept their fist up during the entirety of the U.S. national anthem. You've seen similar actions in recent years by Colin Kaepernick of the National Football League in the United States, where he took a knee. Other actions have been taking place with athletes taking these public stands, but that was huge back then, 1968. We're talking about. So props to Tommy Smith and John Carlos. Big thing about them in the African American Museum. Kales, what are your thoughts on today's show before we get some daily inspiration?
Today's show was heavy. It was heavy, and I mean, both of these conversations are so needed. Like, they are so needed. I'm so sick of people in Bermuda downplaying mental health. I'm so sick of people not wanting to talk about child sexual abuse. Like, these things are still huge issues in our community, and if we are going to get past them, we must talk about them, we must take action, and we must support the agencies who are working tirelessly to educate and eliminate, hopefully,
Yeah, indeed. I just think the community has a role to play. We must look out for one another. We must love one another, and we must show gratitude to one another. And we have to protect one another.
Yes.
And stop protecting the wrong people, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Protecting the wrong people. Any daily inspiration for us, sis?
I sure do. This is so timely. There's only one of you. Take care of it.
Oh, I like that one. Love it, love it, love it. On that note, just want to say thanks to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, and Linda's for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. If you haven't already, you know what to do. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe today. We appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you so much for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back again to do this with you tomorrow. She's Michaela Ian. I'm Jamal Hartman. My friends, make it a great day. Peace.
This is